This is spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian here, also known as Psychic Cynthia. And welcome. Welcome to today's video. And the topic today has to do with knowing when. Instead of asking when, you should be asking why, what, or how. And what does this all have to do with? Well, as most of you know who watch my channel, as a psychic, I do a lot of readings for people and help them in their spiritual counseling with their personal lives. And a question that I get asked a lot in many different forms is, when is blank going to happen? For example, some common forms of this, clients often might say to me, and certain clients, I should say, not everyone, but let's say if clients have been having issues in the romantic area and, haven't yet found their perfect partner for them and are frustrated in that area, they will often ask me, when is my perfect partner going to appear? When is my Mr. Right coming? When is my Miss Right coming? When will I find that ideal soulmate? So that's a form of this question. In the romantic realm, in the relationship realm. For example, also clients might ask me this around their finances or their career issues. When are my finances going to improve? For example, when am I going to have that dream job? And just so we're clear here, usually when these individuals are asking this, they are, feeling very frustrated. Okay, they're expressing their frustrations, and they're irritated at their current state of mind, and quite frankly, they're feeling very desperate. So, if you're a client and you ask me that kind of question, and especially if you ask it in that state of mind, that state of being, like, oh, when is my partner going to come? That is coming from a place of real passivity and victimhood. It's coming from a place of, okay, let me explain it this way. It's like you're looking at the world. And let's take your romantic partner question, if that was your question, or your finances, right? When are my finances going to improve? When is the money going to come in, right? When is Mr. Right going to come? When is Miss Right going to come? All of those questions are really focused on, this underlying idea that life just happens to you and you're just some sort of passive participant. And that's simply not true. Your life doesn't just happen to you, it happens through you. What is happening in your life is at least largely your own personal creation. And as your energies flow in a certain way, they manifest and create a certain reality. So we've got to get away from just thinking that these things are just going to happen no matter what. I mean, it's true that there is an element of fate. And it's true that it's as if fate and free will move together like gears and interlock with each other. But to a large extent, in this physical world that we're in this dimension, to a very large extent, what we experience and what we create is because we created it, okay? And because we allowed that energy to come through. And a lot of this has to do with tapping into a higher spiritual understanding. So it isn't just think positive, okay? I want you to know that I'm not a member of the school of thought where if you just think positive, everything will be great. We all know deep down inside somewhere that's not enough. Now, it can be helpful, and certainly I think it is more empowering for most of us most of the time to think positive rather than to have a dark cloud over our head and always think the worst scenario. I don't know. Some people I've known say that when they think negative and when they worry a lot, it helps them to be prepared. So maybe that works really well for some people. I don't know. But, as a rule, I do encourage you to have a light energy in your thoughts. If if not think positive, at least, be lighthearted is what I mean by that. And be open. Be open. I think that's more important than thinking positive, actually, is to be open to possibility. But I digress here. What we're really talking about is, instead of asking, when will this happen? What I would encourage you to do, and you can ask this of your psychic, your counselor, or even more importantly, ask this of yourself, dear one. Ask yourself, not when, but why? Why hasn't it happened yet? That's a good question to ask yourself. If you're asking, when will my ideal partner come, for example, you might want to go deep within and have a spirit of inquiry and say, well, why hasn't my ideal partner arrived yet? In other words, why haven't you been in that ideal relationship yet? Or to put it bluntly, because like many people that I discuss who ask this particular question, you might want to ask yourself, why have all my previous relationships been so crappy? Okay? Why do I tend to pick partners who aren't very good for me? Those are questions you need to look at if you do have a habitual pattern of destructive relationships. Those are things that, if you don't look at that and you don't deal with your own stuff, then Mr. Right is not going to come along. You might think Mr. Right comes along, and you might meet somebody who you feel very good about for a time, and who knows, maybe they even are right for you. But if you have a pattern of self-sabotage, if you have this pattern in your relationships, it's something to look at and figure out why that is. And, you might need to explore that in therapy. I'm going to be frank here with you. You might need to get some help to do that. Most people can't uncover all of this on their own. At the very least, you need to be with some kind of spiritual counselor or psychic who is coming from the heart realm, who can help you delve into these matters. And maybe you need a therapist too. And, even if you don't really need a therapist per se, these are good questions to journal about. So when you're asking when, don't just ask when. When is this going to happen? When is my ideal love going to come in? Ask yourself, why haven't I met that ideal love yet? Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. Maybe you go out to meet people in all the places where you're not likely to meet somebody you want to be with. Example. I've read for a lot of men and women, both genders, who are looking for a quote-unquote spiritual partner, but they're not really looking in places where, you might be most likely to find a spiritual partner. I mean, of course you can find a spiritual partner in a lot of different places, but if the only place that you spend your time at is at a job where everybody around you are like sharks, okay, for example, and you don't have any social life, then how are you going to meet a spiritual partner? So again, that's looking at why. Why haven't you met that person? We could apply this. I've been focusing on the romantic. Let's switch to the financial realms, because these are two areas people are really interested in a lot. I think many of my viewers here on this channel, you do want to know about your relationships or your finances. So, with your finances or your career, maybe your finances are great, but you're trying to make a transition in your career, a breakthrough. Instead of asking only when is that going to happen, and it's okay to ask that, and if the psychic can answer that, she will or will not. But when, translate that to why. Why haven't you made that breakthrough yet? What's holding you back? Financially, what's stopping you from getting out there and earning more money? Are you feeling lazy and you don't want to get out and work because it's winter? If so, I would understand. It's been a very cold winter. Okay. Are you perhaps lacking in some education that you need to get a pay raise? Well, you might want to think about getting some more of that education. Have you been saying no to opportunities because you think you're too good for them, or you should be getting paid more? But always remember, something is always better than zero, okay? And in the career realm, just why haven't you made that breakthrough? What's holding you back? These are things to explore in your own inner self. And maybe also I would definitely suggest, if you're stuck in any of these ways, exploring these with a coach, a therapist, or a heart-centered psychic or spiritual counselor. And it doesn't have to be me, by the way. It can be someone else who you trust, anyone who you trust who is also gifted in delving into these matters of energy. It's your energy, your patterns. So what I'm saying here is, you can ask when, day and night. And by the way, you can go around to this psychic and that psychic. And, not all psychics are like me, okay? Meaning, some psychics, they're all wonderful. Every one of my colleagues who I've ever met, I can honestly say they all have some kind of gift, and they come from the heart. The ones I've met, I've heard about others who don't, but the ones that I know come from the heart. But I also know that, psychics, sometimes we don't like to say unpleasant things, or, when you ask when your love is going to appear, we want to find a day. We want to say, because we believe in love. We want you to have happiness, right? And so, some psychics will just say, well, this is what I feel, and maybe they do feel that. But here's the reality. If you don't clear up your crap, that love is not going to come. Or when it does come, you're going to screw it up. Okay, there you go. You got that. And the other part of this is, or it's just a big, huge part. What I'm saying is you have to move into an understanding of your own stuff. Life doesn't just happen to you, it happens through you and according to your understanding. And especially your understanding of your inner self, your patterns, the crap that you're carrying, the unhealed wounds, the unresolved issues. And a lot of this really does affect our relationships, so that's why I'm mentioning it here. And also our finances. I mean, it can affect everything, but these two areas in particular can be very affected. So look at why and not just when. Also look at what. What? This is the more empowering part, I think. In particular, I would look at what. What can I do differently in my life to help my ideal partner see me? What can I do differently to be a more ideal partner? That's an even better question, okay? I mean, how many people are carrying around this great list of what they want in a partner and how wonderful that person would be, but you look at that list and you think, my goodness, that partner's not going to be attracted to you, okay? Now, maybe they would. So you want to not only have your list of the ideal partner, but dear one, you want to work on becoming the ideal partner. And this is true too, even if, let's say, your interest, is not just romantic relationships, because I think one issue that comes for people on the spiritual plane, those of us who, are a little bit different than the mainstream, we're often searching for our tribe, our place to belong, our group of friends. So we want to have that friendship connection. So it's the same basic principle. You could start thinking about, what you can do to be a better friend, which sometimes means to not be a better friend. What I mean by that is boundaries, okay? Sometimes what I mean by that is don't try too hard. That can be a big part of it. So you want to try, but without trying too hard. It's sort of zen. And that applies to relationships too, by the way. It's really romantic relationships, I should say. When it comes to relationships, what you're looking at here when you ask, what can I do, to attract these relationships, what you're really looking at is, what can I do to, refine myself as a person? How can you be a better person? Which really is to just be the best you that you can be. It's not to try to be just a different person, but to be the best variation of yourself. So those are some things to think about with that. In our example with the finances, you can just simply ask yourself, if you're stuck in that area, you're thinking, when will I see more money coming in? Ask yourself, what can I do to create more money? What can I do to, create more opportunities for myself? What opportunities do I need to follow up on? What leads do I need to follow up on? Don't ask just when, ask what. What can you do? What do you need to change in yourself? I mean, Do you need to change your appearance when you go to job interviews? Maybe, you need to spruce up your look. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a recruiter, but these are questions I would ask myself if I was in that situation. And or if you're, quote unquote, self-employed, you might think, what do I need to do to reach out to potential new clients? Or what do I need to do to reach out to new clients, different clients? Something along that line. And the same thing if you're trying to make a career breakthrough. What do you need to do? What's the next step? And if you get stuck, again, go back to your coach, your therapist, your psychic, your counselor, whoever is helping you, whoever is on your team. Because by the way, nothing great can be achieved only by yourself. You cannot build this all on your own, whatever it is you're trying to build. Human beings, we were created to take pleasure in each other's company and to benefit each other. So it's a large part of it is opening to receive help and guidance. It really humors me sometimes when I see people who are aspiring to be psychic teachers, but they don't want to hire a teacher themselves or come under the guidance of a teacher. And I always think, well, how are you going to learn to be a mentor if you don't have one? It's very difficult, I would think. That wasn't my experience. I always had teachers. So I still have teachers. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Well, I hope you found this helpful today. And so, instead of asking yourself when, remember to ask why and what, and even how. How can be a wonderful question. How can I blank? And start to get more understanding about yourself and your energies and what you might be working through in this situation. Because if your partner hasn't showed up yet, you probably have some work to do in this area. And how long is it going to take for you to do that? I don't know. No psychic knows the answer to that, by the way, because it's up to you, dear one. And the same thing for your financial matters. If that's a struggle for you, how long will it take for you to begin dealing with some of your issues around this so that you can clear this up? With any situation, this could be applied to so many situations, So basically, if there's any question in your mind right now and you're asking yourself, when will this blank happen? What I've talked about in this video applies, even if it's not a love-related issue or a financial or career-related issue. It could be anything. It could be relating to health. And what I'm saying here is it can be very helpful for you and empowering to step out of the victimhood consciousness and quit thinking that life is just something that happens to you randomly. It is not. And of course, there are many forces at work. I acknowledge that. There's even astrological forces. And, if we wanted to look at timing, really, we could do that with astrology. We could look at when, the forces of the universe that are conducive to love are more active for you. But that doesn't mean that your partner is going to appear then, because again, a lot of it has to do with the energy state that you're in, which is not just thinking positive, okay? It's really being aware of yourself and your power and your energy, not seeing yourself as a victim, and looking at, the past choices you make and looking at how you can improve. I remember many, many, many years ago, I've been happily married for over 2 decades now, but it is a second marriage. And I had to learn in relationships. And there was a time when I realized that I had a certain type that I was drawn to. And once I realized what that type was, actually, it wasn't even just the type I was drawn to, it was a type I attracted, okay? And it was a real aha moment for me to realize this type, and the type was not working for me. It was not good. Romantically, I'm saying, understand. And when I realized that type of gentleman who was attracted to me, it was like I was dating the same man with different names, okay? And when I realized that, that type didn't work well for me, maybe it worked well for somebody else. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying it wasn't working well for me and my needs. I start to become conscious of that. And when, someone appeared in my life who was interested in me romantically, but was that type, I just didn't give him my number, okay? I just stopped encouraging that, right? I took charge. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't long after that that I met the man who is my husband now, who was so unlike that type that I had been attracting before. So guess what? I became aware of a pattern. I resolved to do differently. I did differently, and I got different results. Yes, that's how it works, okay? So try it and see. At the very least, it will give you something to work on and to do while you await for the future to unfold. Until the next video, love to you all and bright blessings.